I'm joined now by Joshua Landis, Director of the Center for Middle East Studies at the University of Oklahoma. He's also the founder of Syria Comment, a news site that follows developments in the country. Mr. Landis, thank you very much for joining us on TRT World. A little earlier we were talking about the groups that have been excluded from the peace talks in Geneva. One of those groups is Daesh, of course. Now, if they're not being engaged diplomatically, they have to be removed militarily. Do you think that's possible?
Well, it's not clear how that's going to be done. One needs a partner on the ground in order to replace them and to provide a better government than they can. And the United States does not have a partner. They've been using the Kurds, but the Kurds have taken as much territory as they possibly can. And now they're facing just Arab territory. So unless the United States gets an Arab partner, this will be impossible. Of course, Russia has tried to suggest Assad as that partner, but the United States has rejected that option.
We've seen the most powerful air forces in the world pounding them for months, and yet it seems to have been ineffective, or at least not conclusive. Why do you think that is?
Well, because there's nobody to replace them. And even though they're quite weak, it's not, people can't provide an internal resistance against ISIS unless there's somebody there to replace them. And ISIS has been very brutal about suppressing any potential opposition groups, whether it's amongst tribal leaders or political parties.
I just want to take you through the areas that are controlled by the various groups. Let's take a look at that. This is what Syria looks like today. The areas in red are controlled by the regime, and in green, we're just going to get this map up here now, and in green are the various opposition groups who rose up against Assad. The black areas there under Daesh control, and the yellow parts in the north of the country are now controlled by the PYD's armed group, the YPG, the Syrian branch of the PKK terror group that's fighting the Turkish state. I want to just ask you about the chances for Syria of emerging from this war as one country. As I said, we've seen the PYD saying that we are going to have our own area, we're going to administer our own area in northern parts of Syria. What are the chances that Syria will emerge as one country? Do you rate them highly?
You know, that's the million-dollar question. It seemed possible when Russia was really backing the Assad regime. That was the claim of the Assad regime, that it would be able to reconquer, even if it took 2, 3, 4 years, that it would eventually reconquer Syria. And there seemed to be some small prospect for that because there is very little support for the rebels. And should Assad be able to close off the Turkish border, for example, and begin to starve rebel centers, it would be hard for the rebels to sustain this. Today, that looks less likely. With Russia claiming that it's withdrawing from Syria, it's unclear whether the Assad regime can really take back all of Syria. They are going to be, the Idlib area, that green area that you're showing on the map, the Idlib province next to Turkey, which is rebel central in the north, is going to have a hard time holding out against the regime should the Assad forces be able to close the border between Turkey and the rebels so that they can't get resupplies, can't get new arms, can't get food and money in. That's going to be the big challenge.
Joshua Landis from the University of Oklahoma, thank you very much for your analysis.